Welcome back to Finance for Firefighters. So today we're going to get into more details about MERP. This one is specifically about MERP math and calculating your benefit. I've talked in the past couple episodes about what MERP is, the difference between individual and the pool trust side of it. This one is going to actually be the actual math so that you can look at whatever those tables you have in your MOU and your contribution amounts for your paycheck, and then figure out a much better idea of what you actually have or what you're going to be looking forward to in your either your pool trust side, the pension side, or the individual side. So a quick recap on MERP. MERP, or Medical Expense Reimbursement Plan, is IFF sponsored, it's professionally managed, it's privately funded, and it's privately managed. So the money that you have sent over there through either your contributions and or your employer contributions is out of the city's hands, and they don't have access to it. And as a result of that, it makes it very, very stable and a very, very reliable thing for you to count on for those expenses in retirement. Think of MERP like a pension system, but just for medical expenses in retirement. All right, I'm going to get into an example of how normal contributions work for my department specifically. So you guys can draw this. The guys I work with, you can draw this and look at exactly how this works for you. And then if your local has different contribution amounts or different table, it's functionally the same way. But we'll get into exactly how to calculate how your ASUs work and all that rest of that stuff. So you'll have a better grasp of it. Okay, so we talked about before in previous episodes, but an ASU, or active service unit, one of those costs $25. For every $25 contributed, either between you and the employer, earns you one ASU. And again, this is different conceptually than the PERS thing, where you're putting in a certain percentage of your pay and then you're getting a certain benefit at the end. These are basically every $25 you put in earns you one ASU. And the more ASUs you have, the higher your benefit is going to be in retirement. All right, so let's take a look at an example of a firefighter that puts in $150 total per paycheck. We're assuming that's between the employer and the employee. We have 26 paychecks in a year, and let's say that they have 30 years of service. This is a pretty basic example. It's just, hey, $150 a check per employer and employee over an entire career. So if they put the $150 per paycheck in times 26 pay periods, that's $3,900 per year. After a 30-year career, 3,900 times 30 is $117,000 that's been contributed to MERP on your behalf between you and the employer. So now that we have that total amount of money, we can convert this over to ASUs, or active service units. Pretty straightforward. You take the $117,000 that's been put in there, you divide it by 25 because it's $25 per unit. That gives you 4,680 units, or 4,680 ASUs. Now we take the ASUs and we're going to convert them over to the monthly benefit. So the MERP formula that they use is take your ASUs, you multiply it times 0.41. So if we had 4,680 ASUs times 0.41, that equals $19.19 per month money tax-free. So $1,919 per month tax-free. So you put in $119,000 that's been invested into this pool trust. It's been managed over that entire period of time. And based on how they have everything set up, you're looking at almost $2,000 a month in retirement, from retirement age until death, for that lifetime medical benefit. Pretty significant amount of money. So for the example that we just looked at, that amount of money of investing or putting in, contributing $117,000 ends up giving you a monthly benefit of $1,900 or just over that per month. That same amount of money, looking at that being invested through PERS, because many of us have contributed significantly more than that over the course of several years, you're not getting a fraction of that kind of return on it. Because if they have this set up professionally managed, there's not really a ton of overhead that they're paying. There's not this huge cow PERS machine that has to be taken care of by it. It's a private investment firm that manages all this stuff. So $117,000 over a 30-year period, and you're getting almost $2,000 a month. It's a pretty significant benefit. So I know most of us don't like numbers. Most of us aren't nerds like me, but the numbers that are important for you to remember on this are pretty straightforward. I'll just go through what this is so that you understand this as we're working through this little example for MERP math. So one ASU is $25, right? One ASU, or active service unit, costs $25. So every $25 that between you and your employer, contribute to MERP ends up being one ASU. And then you take whatever the total amount of ASUs that you have in the end are, and you multiply that times their multiplier that MERP has set up, which is 0.41. So you take ASUs times 0.41, and that equals your monthly benefit that you're getting in retirement. So the total amount of ASUs times 0.41 equals the monthly benefit that you'd be getting from lifetime medical through MERP, through the pool trust side. Okay, now we'll get into an example of how to convert your leave conversions, right? So this is all those actuarially adjusted amounts, but your sick leave, your vacation leave, management leave, we'll look at exactly how those things can be converted for the same functionally the same way, but it's going to be a slightly different chart that we're going to look at. So we'll get into an example of how leave conversions are done. So the Appendix C in the MERP document talks about exactly what these leave conversions are. This is a little bit kind of in the weeds, nerdiness stuff, but if you're looking at finding out exactly how much you're going to be getting from MERP and your lifetime benefit, or how much you can bump up based on ASUs and stuff, this will tell you how to work through that with the example that we're going to go through. So this appendix here has all sorts of different examples on there. We've got all the way from the age of 20 for how much an ASU cost at $77.60, and then all the way down to the age of 70 if you make it that long and you're still working before you cash out. So it's got all these different things in there, and you can see as time goes on, it gets more expensive. And sort of like we talked about before, that 39 or 40-year-old mark is sort of that balance tipping point between where it gets more expensive to buy an ASU with your leave conversion after the age of 39 or 40, and it's cheaper to buy them before that because there's more or less time for them to invest that money. Okay, so we talked about leave conversions and how they're adjusted by age, right? The younger you are, the cheaper the ASUs are, and the more you would get for a certain amount of money, right? The older you are, the more expensive they are, you get less ASUs for the same amount of money. So if we take an example and we say we have $5,000 worth of leave that we're going to convert in the end of the year, or in retirement, through your separation, you have leaves you're going to cash out. If we look at three different examples, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, and a 50-year-old. A 30-year-old, ASUs cost $14.48 per ASU. For a 40-year-old, it's $27.59. And for a 50-year-old, it's $52.53. Again, these are adjusted this way because the MERP pension system, or the pooled trust part of it, has less time to invest it, right? So for a 50-year-old, they're pretty much going to take the money and give it right back to you in a benefit, right? Versus a 30-year-old, they have like 20 years worth of investing for that money to grow over time. So if we look at those examples and we say, hey, all right, the different prices in there, and each one of those different people are cashing out that same $5,000 and they're trying to earn ASUs for it. We take that $5,000 and we divide that by whatever their price per unit is, right? So $5,000 divided by 1448 equals 345 and some change. So 345 and some change ASUs for the 30-year-old. For the 40-year-old, $5,000 divided by 27.59 per ASU gives them about 181 ASUs. So it dropped down quite a bit. And then for the 50-year-old, $5,000 divided by $52.53 per ASU gets you 95 ASUs. So 30-year-old has 345 ASUs for that $5,000 amount of money. The 40-year-old's got 181 ASUs, and the 50-year-old has 91 ASUs. Now, all we got to do is take those ASUs and multiply it by that multiplication factor, that 0.41. So if we take 345 times 0.41, we get 141.57. We do the same thing to the 40-year-old. We multiply 181 times 0.41. We're going to get 7430. 95 and change ASUs times 0.41 equals 3903. So the differences there are each one of them is cashing out that same amount of money, but because MERP has more or less time to invest it, they're going to get a higher or lower monthly benefit. So the 30-year-old, for putting in there and cashing out $5,000 for ASU, is going to get a benefit bump up of $141 per month in that benefit. The 40-year-old to get a bump up of about $74 and some change per month in the lifetime benefit. And then the 50-year-old is only going to get about $39 a month bumped up in that lifetime monthly benefit. Now, again, $5,000 is a little chunk of money, but it's nothing huge. Most of our leave balances in retirement end up being tens of thousands of dollars. So this would make a bigger dent for people in retirement. But if you're looking at this, cashing it out each year, if you're getting closer to retirement or if it's further away for you, having an idea of how much this money gets cashed out and what it'll actually mean for you is a great way to sort of have a strategy on how much you want to have in that monthly benefit. So if we cash this money out, either through the 30-year-old, 40-year-old, or 50-year-old, all of this money, when you're converting it through these leave conversions, gets stacked on top of the other ASUs you have or the other monthly benefit that you have. So if you think of it like two different things, once you've cashed that money out and you've, the money's been transferred out there through the leave conversion, if you decide to keep it in an individual account, well, then you don't really have to do any math. That money just gets invested and you pull it out in the 457 style. But if you want to get ASUs for it, know how many ASUs you're going to be getting for it. Running through some of these leave conversions to that leave conversion chart, you'll be able to determine exactly how much you're going to be bumping up your monthly benefit as a result of it. So either way, doing the math is relatively simple. There's a couple little formulas you have. You can just reference this anytime that you need. The MERP plan document has all of this stuff broken down if you really want to get into the weeds and learn this kind of stuff and nerd out on it as much as I have. But the main takeaways from this are you still have the individual account and you have the pool trust account. If you're looking at determining what your monthly benefit is in there based on your ASUs, you got to do a little bit of this math to figure all that kind of stuff out. If you run the simple stuff on your MOU, the table that you have to say, hey, how much am I going to contribute over my career? Or even, let's say you're close to retirement, through your MERP portal, you're going to see exactly how many ASUs that you have. You can kind of run it out there and be like, okay, here's how much I have. What am I looking at? You run that simple formula of what you're looking at on the benefit for it. The other part of this is if you decide to cash some of this stuff out through leave conversion in the end, you can determine, hey, what's my monthly benefit going to be if I take this money and I turn it into the pool trust side for the lifetime monthly benefit? Or is it maybe it's more worth it for me to take this money out, not convert any of it, and put it over in that individual account and just invest it for the 7 to 10% rate of return? So that's going to be kind of dealer's choice on that. Again, important to mention to you folks that when you do leave conversions, either annually or in retirement, that money is going to default somewhere if you don't choose for it to go where you want it to go. You can say, hey, I want to convert it to ASUs and then get the monthly benefit from it, or you could say, hey, I want it to stay in the individual account. If you don't get back to them within that 60-day period of time, they will make a default selection for you. And the default selection is based on what's cheaper for you. It's kind of your best interest in mind, right? So if you're sort of the tipping point, that 39 or 40, if you're younger than that, the default is going to be for them to take that money that you've put in there in leave conversions and put it in the pool trust side. If you're over the age of 40, typically the default is going to be putting it and leaving it into that individual account, and then that'll just get invested and grow over time. So MERP is one of the best benefits that we have. Our local has had it for a few years. It's fantastic. If your local doesn't have it, I encourage you to get it. And again, you reach out to me or MERP itself for more details on how to actually go about doing that. But it is a great benefit to have. There is a little bit of nuance to it, and a little bit of details with it. So reference this episode if you need it for more math specifics on it, and reach out to me with any particular questions on that. So most people hate math, but the value hopefully this episode brings to you is that you can actually kind of have a ballpark, an idea of what that benefit is going to be for you in retirement, especially if you end up bumping it up with leave conversions and things like that. So doing a little bit of math for your own benefit in the future is definitely in your best interest. So do a little bit of research, find out what your monthly premiums are going to be, and try to hit a sweet spot of getting that monthly benefit, and maybe even having that individual account on the side to be able to kind of help bump that up if needed. And then also just to have it as sort of another security blanket, so that in the event that you or your wife pass away in retirement, you still have something else to draw from to be able to bridge the gap, because maybe that amount you're going to have in retirement will be lower as a result of that. Download the MERP Math Quick Guide in the description below. Thanks for joining me on Finance for Firefighters. Hope you guys have a good shift. Thumbs up if you like it, comments below, especially in this episode. If you have any comments or questions, there is some details to this. So comments below. Hope you guys have a good shift. I'll see you on the next one.